Well, hello and welcome to SDG Talks, a a program that is dedicated to the Sustainable Development Goals and how they can help us in the shift from being best in the world to be best for the world. And we have had some previous programs here, so please check them out. We have had that we a fantastic, interesting interview with a woman from Pakistan who was head of something called SDG Hackathon. And right now I'm going to elaborate a little bit about the SDGs as I had the opportunity this last summer to meet with Jakob Trollbäck, who is the designer behind all those development goals. And the reason to why me and my colleague Pontus Rystedt wanted to get in contact with Jakob was that he wrote an article early 2019 saying that we as a world, we have really embraced the SDGs on a awareness level. He was talking about in this article about we have bought a gym card. A lot of us have bought this gym card. But then he was critical against himself and us and everyone that no one really went to the gym and didn't really practice the intent behind the SDG tools, SDGs. And so in this article, I found it quite interesting because I have had some thoughts already before. The SDGs were presented 2015, and at that point I didn't really know exactly the story behind them. I knew that they were part of the Agenda 2030, but I didn't know how it was supposed to be communicated. But I thought when I saw them that it was a fantastic language in many ways, but it also had limits. One of them would be how to be engaged, and another limit would be that some of them were more or less amplifying what we already have, which we maybe should leave in favor of something else. So I told Pontus, my colleague, look, this article is quite interesting. And he said, yeah, this is Jakob Trollbäck who has been designing them. And I didn't know that. So Pontus got a hold of Jakob, and we scheduled for a meeting last spring. And we have, I would say, maybe another part to get this puzzle whole, and that is that we have this intentional decision model, which is giving us, as in the language of the ID model, dimensions, but we can also call them principles or guiding principles that can help us in the shift from best in the world to best for the world. But that is another type of language, but it serves a purpose actually to have another type of language. In the SDGs, we have goals. So we set a goal, and it's by 2030, and there are goals that are supposed to be reached before that. And then we of course have to update those goals, but there are some interesting thing by working with goals. First of all, you will have to more or less, how can I say it, feel that you're actually working for a goal. Otherwise it will be hard to see that you're contributing to it. So for instance, if you have a start somewhere and the goal is 10 years from now, how do I even know that I contribute to this goal, as maybe I don't see the development of it? And another thing with goals is that some of them you can work a long time for maybe getting 5% done. So maybe after 9 years, there's still no much action to be seen or results to be seen. But in the last year, everything will happen. So this is very often when you use goals, for instance, in business development or in any development. You can take a personal development case where you maybe you broke your legs and you have to start walk again, and your goal is to, after 4 months, run. So after 3.5, you maybe have still not been able to run a kilometer, but the last 2 weeks is the whole difference between taking some first steps and then run. So you never know on this time scale where you are actually contributing. So that's a problem with goals in any goal, I would say. Another thing when working on a goal, and this is very important concerning the SDGs, is that when you work on one goal, you're affecting the others, either positively or negatively. This is something Jakob calls cascading. When you work on a goal, it cascades on other goals. So there are interconnections, and they are seen. They are studied right now. So we have the 17 main goals, but there are also sub goals, 160 something. So when we met the first time last spring, we presented the ID model, and there is something there in between the SDGs and this intentional decision ID model that is very interesting, because it takes us from a goal setting to a guiding principles way of working. And when you use guiding principles, you can actually align them to the overall goal, which is the intent with the whole agenda to 2030. And when you align the guiding principles, they are helping you in a certain direction. They don't say exactly what the goal is, but if you combine goals, you can also, with the guiding principles, you can also align the goals to it, so they don't negatively cascade on each other. So this was the first meeting we had concerning this, and I was also very interested in when Jakob told us that one of the cascading that had a very positive effect on many other goals was when you work with gender inequality. If you went from patriarchal to a human way of looking at the world, then it cascaded positively on many other SDGs. So by that said, I would say it was extremely interesting in how can this connection be done. Then we had a second meeting during an event here in Sweden called Almedalen last year. We had a radio intentional decision dialogue together with Jakob Tolbeck and Hanna Boman. Both are working together on, for instance, the SDGs, but also on development issues and how you can communicate them. And then we talked about not only you need the gym card as the SDGs are, not only the intent to go to the gym, that is the ID model, you also need the gym itself. You need practicing, and of course the best way to practice is when you do something. You don't have to go to the gym to get fit. You can actually get out in the real world and do things. You can, for instance, if you're taking gym analogy, you can take a walk, you can go out running, or you can actually practice the outdoors in the real world. So the idea then is to combine those three into one, and a training tool. We call it the SDG tool, and that's an idea Pontus Rystedt, my colleague, had a year ago, which could be a way to see how what can I say? How to really make not only alignment to the goals, but also business development upon the goals by default. And then to be able to do this, we another colleague of mine, Christina Diné, she has developed together with other people fantastic gamified learning tool. It's called gamified learning tool, GLT. And so we combine those three right now. It's an idea of ours to combine them into business development tool called the SDG tool to be able to develop both businesses and organizations by default reaching the Agenda 2030 and working with guiding principles. And for those of you who are new to the language of the IDE model, a guiding principle or a dimension in the model is, for instance, empathy over sympathy. So it's nothing that is in opposition. It's a way, a direction. If you go from one direction to the other, you can always take another step. So if you're moving in the direction to empathy, there is always another step to take. And this is also interesting because very often when people are working with goals, when you reach the goal, you realize it was not a goal, it was just a place or a station on the road, on the journey to whatever it is. So to be able to do this conversion between goals and guiding principles and the ID model, we had an idea which is based on a level of consciousness, which is easily understood within the ID model. We have there 4 main worldviews, so to speak. There could be more, of course, it's a continuous model. It's not like something that is discrete, but we can see 4 clear worldviews emerge when you have worked with the ID model for a while. We have elaborated on them in this during this weekend, during some of the programs, so you can probably find more about them. I would say we are still there exploring those. The first one is the physical me. Physical me is the predominant worldview, I would say, where we are in the Western world. It's in between that actually and the next level, which we call formal we. This also corresponds to the Reinventing Organizations framework by Frédéric Laloux. So if you want to dig into it more, or if you are familiar with that language, you will easily see the connections. And then we have something we call created together. It's the next consciousness level. And then we have conscious united. And the combination of them would be to be in a creator mode, using the ID model language. So going from a victim mode to a creator mode also means that you go from a separated world where you have the inner and outer world, and the outer world is what counts, going to a more interconnected world where you embrace complexity and you don't reduce the system, and you can then also work with guiding principles. And the guiding principles in the ID model, they go all the way through all those levels of consciousness. So the idea we then had was, can we easily, by using the language of the SDGs, find their place in the ID model on a consciousness level? So we did a big effort on this autumn, me, Pontus and Christina, to sort out all those 160 something sub-goals to see, is this fit to what we're thinking of? Is it, can it be done? And I believe that it gave us a real insight, because when you're at a certain consciousness level as a person or organization or whatever, this is from where you can get your most we can call it power or effect or whatever. This is where you're grounded. So working with the goals on that level will have a great impact. And now we have a sorting tool, more or less, to easily see on what consciousness level are those 160 something development goals. And then you can identify your own organization or your own society or yourself with various models out there to get the level of consciousness. And from that, or the predominant level of consciousness, I should say, within the system that you are in. And with that knowledge, we can sort out which of those can we have great impact on? And then you have to see which of them are relevant within this kind of business that I'm in. So you actually get down to a very impactful level very quick. So there is as a reduction in some sense also here, but you don't reduct on how can I say it, departments or subjects or whatever it is. We then sort first the level of consciousness, and then we can see what of those are relevant for our type of business or our whatever it is. So we tried that little tool out in a couple of projects. Some business, small business owners have used it on some collaborations. We have also started out to develop this SDG tool. So this is where we are right now, and I just wanted to share this with the rest of you. And maybe there are some people there who wants to know more or have new ideas when you hear this, or maybe you have another idea that can be combined into this. So please contact us then. You can find both me, Pontus, and Christina in Emprogage, the consultancy firm where we work for is best for the world by then consciously choosing empathy, proactivity, and engagement, which are those three dimensions or guiding principles that I've been speaking about. So that is mainly what I wanted to share with you in this SDGs talk. And yeah, maybe one thing more, and that is to be able to do this, we need to co-create the SDG tool itself. So we also need small businesses or maybe NGOs or and also public authorities, if the small groups that can more or less create it together. Because when you use the gamified learning tool, which is a fantastic tool for learning together, you also, as you work with the questions you put into them, it creates new material, it creates new questions, it creates new insights, and then you can use that to develop the next level of the tool. So that is how we have a plan for the creation of this SDG tool. That was pretty much what I wanted to share. I hope this has been of interest, and if you want to use this map of the translation from SDGs to consciousness level, then I would say we will very soon have some kind of material to share on this. And already now we can, on a collaborative level, share the knowledge. So please be in contact with us and we can share it, but it's a work in progress document right now. So hopefully in a couple of weeks we also have some kind of maybe a white paper on it or something like that. Okay, so I will now leave room for the next program. It will come up here soon. I don't really remember exactly what it's coming up, but if you want to know what the rest of the schedule for those 4 days of live broadcasting Best for the World, you go to bestforthe.world. On that website, you find the whole schedule with all the programs and concepts. And it's been amazing 4 days here, seeing how people can you co-create stuff and also create stuff out of pretty much nothing. So I'm very eager to see what's the programs today, and what knowledge and wisdom and ideas and collaboration that will end up in. So please visit that website, and if you still want to engage, we are now talking about this torch of hope that we have now created in some way. If someone wants to take that and carry it on in a similar or another conceptualized idea broadcastings, please contact us also. Right now, have a nice day there, and see you all. Bye.